Name is Michael Roy Turney, and I hope this is my last YouTube video. Going to try another format, maybe Twitter. If nothing else, that's the media that my current Congressman Andy Biggs is on. Trying to get him to respond to my questions. And that primary one today, even though I had to listen to his town hall show the other night, he still continues to not respond when I ask him a question about him revealing who all in Arizona, at least, is on that DOJ watch list, which I know I am and have been, at least since my demands for a DOJ investigation of the Phoenix Police Department, their involvement in destroying evidence pertaining to the assassination of Don Bolles, the Associated Press reporter, who again was writing articles and appeared to be a threat, like our Governor Eb Meekum was to keeping the Arizona southern border wide open. Sounds like a conspiracy net, which is what they try and turn it into, most politicians. Well, regardless, YouTube has censored all of my videos trying to respond to the allegations by my daughter, Sarah Turney, pertaining to my missing daughter, Alyssa Marie Turney, to which the Phoenix PD has created all this, made me into a political felon, using Washington political judges like Susan R. Bolton, appointed by Bill Clinton, who in fact is the one that got rid of the charges against Arthur Coyer, which, due to the chronology of it, was probably related to reported labor racketeering involving union retirement funds during the building of the Palo Verde nuclear power plant, which was a $9 billion project. But regardless, my attempts to defend the name of my father, as well as the name and the memory of Sarah and Alyssa's mother, Barbara Lee Turney, have not made the media time that I need, as judging by whatever responses there were from the media. But when you really want to condone or allow a 1692 type witch hunt, to actually use TikTok and a 300,000 signature petition for me to be arrested as the only evidence you really have for a murder true case. And yet I read this stuff and I'm so concerned of the lack of knowledge by these young people about your own judicial system. You know, they always bring up my 50-year-old law enforcement background. Well, back then, folks, the Bill of Rights meant a lot. You couldn't slam somebody in jail or a dungeon for years and years and years with unaffordable bail, while the government works a case on you because they didn't have enough evidence to begin with to go to trial to win the case. That's where corpus delicti comes in, something that was on national news involving Alec Baldwin, where he got that right because he's rich and high on the socioeconomic status, to get and force the government to produce whatever evidence they had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt a crime was committed and the defendant did it. And that was acquitted. His was acquitted. I had to wait in the dungeon for 3 years before I could get a 5-day trial, during which the government is required to produce the evidence to prove that a crime was committed and I participated in somehow, which they were unable to. Now, back in the days when corpus delicti meant something, and there were good investigative techniques by police officers, which, believe it or not, folks, a police department starting out in bad, the ones that created the Miranda decision, you know, you had right to remain silent, never really had good police techniques. Doesn't mean there wasn't some in there, but it was abused so many times that a lot of innocent people have gone to jail based on witch hunt type stuff, hateful superstitions, rumors, innuendos, and lies, which, folks, that's all hearsay. And again, many people ask, why isn't he in jail for the rest of his life? It's quite simple, folks. There never was any evidence because they didn't do it. But you can create hateful superstitions using rumors, innuendos, and lies, which is what TikTok did in this case, getting me arrested, wrongfully punished. The sad part and sick part, and something you should really be worried about, is when I filed the lawsuit, one of the things I wanted to get in writing was to let you know that currently under your system, there is no corpus delicti in the beginning. You have to wait until the government is forced to, during a trial, produce all the evidence they have. In this case, it's called a no body, no crime scene, or basically no physical evidence. So all that is left is substantial evidence, which you can prove, but you have to have a certain level, which Superior Court Judge Sam Myers was demanding. Excuse me, which is what Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery was demanding and rejected for 3 years what the Phoenix PD had. And nothing changed from 2017 to 2020 except Alistair Adele. And she was either looking for votes or just a real nutcase, which was exposed nationally again, bringing another humiliating situation to the state of Arizona and Maricopa County, one of your most corrupt counties in this country. And all elections are subject to the power brokers who run this that want to keep the Arizona southern border wide open. So because you don't really understand or know the actual politics of this state, whenever you hear stories like people are on a watch list by the Department of Justice, which in this case is controlled by the Democratic Party, who went after President Donald J. Trump and had him convicted, knowing they couldn't do it at the federal level, but they went to the state level in order to do that for several reasons. Number one, the president can't pardon a state charge. And number two is the fact that he never won in Washington, because if he did so, then he'd have to do to just about everybody who sits in an office in the federal government in Washington, D.C. It's an everyday, every second occurrence. So regardless of that, the sad part of it is that all of this overlooked justice for Alyssa Marie Turney, justice for Sarah's family when she defamed her own mother, allowing Alyssa's biological father, Steve, to lie about her mother having an affair with me before we got married and while she was still married with Steve. Simply not true. Or to defame and badmouth her mother's dream. And Barbara really did have a dream about the Turney bunch, which was combining our family, which at that time was just her two, which was Alyssa and John, and my three sons. In order to make a family, she wanted mine, hers, and ours to make it complete, and worked very, very hard against all the odds, of which that came to a drastic end when she died at the age of 34. But the politics involving in people like me who have been on the DOJ watch list, and mine began with when I demanded that for the assassination of Don Bolles, but it also came again in 1979 when I reported labor racketeering and the vicious attack against me on that one. Then, of course, there was the 1993 and 95 wrongful discharges based on the union blacklisting me, or the AFL-CIO, and a guy named Arthur Coyer and them, because I screwed up their little scam, irrevocable trust crap, to where they could actually steal union retirement funds. That also resulted, after this 79 reporting and what have you, with the changing in all of our vesting laws pertaining to retirement funds. These are all facts of the truth. I mean, this is actually documented. But TikTok's not going to do that. ABC and NBC didn't want to hear it. They listened, but they sure as hell didn't put it on the air. So when you have this kind of media control, governments that's pro-government like ABC and NBC, and believe me, they're all basically that way because they live under the fear as Mike Wallace once told me when ABC was a decent company, in reference to media, when he had just ran his show on how many deaths were contributed to the carcinogenic chemicals put in cigarettes since 1965. When I learned about it in 93, when Barbara died from just that, 1 of 20 million, I pursued and wanted to know what the hell is America allowing a product in this country that would kill so many people and contribute to $1 trillion worth of taxpayer money for medical care for these people from a product that somebody obviously made a lot of money from. Those hearings in 95 were once again politically interrupted and restricted, and no one involved in the production of this product, the tobacco chemicals that were put in it for processing, was ever indicted. None. So, the politics is not new to me about this thing, and me being a convicted felon, it was inevitable. I was fully aware of that, and then protected myself endlessly using tape recordings, documents. But the surveillance and audio taping came after one of my sons, clear back in 1980s, said he received a call where he was threatened with anal sex by some unknown person. I even allowed the Phoenix Police Department to tap my phone twice because I wanted to catch these people. And that's when the audio was put on. I also put on what used to be an old Radio Shack device, to where if someone else come in on your line, your private line, as I had, because we used to have party lines back when I was a kid and even as a young adult, that I could tell when someone was on the line, which I had a mother-in-law who worked for Mountain Bell, as a supervisor, so she could monitor all of my calls back in those days. But then, I knew when the Phoenix PD put the tap on. I knew when it ended. And those have to be done by court orders, folks. Those, you have to get that kind of court order before you can even if it's voluntarily. Not anymore. You don't need that. And Phoenix PD's never followed that anyway, folks. That's the reason why they were sought after by attorneys John Flynn and his partner to create the Miranda decision, because the Phoenix PD has always operated that way, and they're very brutal, very violent. I've seen them start race riots. I know. I lived here. As a deputy sheriff, I never condoned them, because many court cases against bad people were lost because their choice to not comply with the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. And certain, just like in my case, lying under oath at all times, and that's been going on with the Phoenix PD. The bad cops, just the few that are bad, Don Bolts called the interplace. That's never going to stop, because no one's ever been indicted or held accountable for doing such. In my case, back when I was in law enforcement, police officers who lied under oath were subject to being charged with perjury. Not anymore. They have absolutely no accountability. Therefore, they got nothing to lose if they lie to put Mike Turney in a jail they know is going to punish him, because our system for the poor people, or the people low on the socioeconomic status, does not allow you to get the government evidence at the beginning of the judicial process to prevent you from languishing in a dungeon for years and years and years, to which now your courts say is a mere detainment, and there's no accountability or affirmation in reference to your wrongful loss of all of your freedoms, even when you're acquitted. So this whole round circle, but YouTube has censored these so badly, folks, denying even the premieres on the last few. When I confronted them, basically what I'm hearing back is they're saying that what statements I make are inappropriate. I don't know exactly how mine could be worse than being Sarah and TikTok and ABC and NBC falsely accused me of molestation and murdering my own daughter. Taking all of my home videos out of context, just like Sarah did. And for those of you who are fans, followers of TikTok and Sarah Elizabeth Turney, the thing she promised her fans of the confrontation with my daddy, the Peacock hour-and-a-half taped video that they did, Sarah looked very, very bad, folks. I mean, extremely bad. That's why I put her picture and that whole interview on YouTube, who, again, didn't air it as much time as it should. Because I turn on YouTube at any time, and there, boom, there's Sarah's, you know, opinions constantly on those, right next to Mel Gibson and his event, and next to all these stars and all these national news events, just like that. But mine doesn't follow. That doesn't seem like it's a fair level playing field any more than Susan R. Bolton, appointee of Bill Clinton, gave me when I needed the evidence to go to trial, which she refused, which again went hand in hand with what the practice was then, probably still is for all I know, of the prosecutor for the federal government threatening your family to get you to take a plea agreement. And even when you sign and agree to the plea agreement, the prosecutor doesn't even keep that. He doesn't even keep the promise of what's even in writing in my case, to where he lied to me to get it, and then turned around and presented a higher, which was actually more than double the recommended sentence for a first-time offender for the allegation of having a possession of unregistered explosive devices, which also includes firecrackers, folks, if you really look at the statutes. Or even to produce that Sarah said that the Phoenix PD destroyed key evidence that was shown, which was a video recording of the raid in 2008 showing the Phoenix PD planning those pipe bombs, or all these people walking across the crime scene contaminated before they found the plastic pipe bombs. So all of this stuff it's what goes on now because we allow the Department of Justice to maintain a watch list. And the sadness of it is I can't even get my representative, Andy Biggs, who happens to be in the same party that I'm in, because the Democrats are taken over by all the mobs, so there's no sense in even joining that. Especially if you turned in labor racketeering. It's not going to get you any favors, but it will get you terminated from 2 different national security jobs by the union, and then the DOJ refuses to investigate the Hatch Act, which is what that was written for. So regardless, I hope that maybe perhaps I can find an avenue with Twitter, but I doubt it. People like me, we used to be called catalysts, that complainer that somehow kind of kept us in line in reference to what was going on, that would expose corruption. And if you don't believe, which I don't really give a damn at this particular point, I'll be dead for too long, that I embarrassed, humiliated, and exposed incompetence, lack of participation pertaining to this state, the state of Arizona, being non-compliant with what's called Free Appropriate Public Education, FAPE, and the IDEA, which is Individual Disability Education Act, which were written in order to protect children like Alyssa, who was medically diagnosed with ADD, attention deficit disorder, or learning impairment, as well as tested by the state as mandated under that federal program, if you want the federal funding, to place these children in special classes, which Alyssa had in math and English, so she could pass them. Alyssa had a serious problem with comprehending what she read, and that was all exposed, which Anderson, of course, from the PPD lied. So regardless of whatever I tried to bring about, I embarrassed people who, at that time, I believe Andy Biggs was one of our state representatives at the time, because they, as Janet Napolitano admitted, which all these are newspaper article folks, that not only was the state of Arizona had the highest kick out and arrest rate of children just like Alyssa in the nation, but that we, the state of Arizona, was not compliant with the Individual Disability Education Act that we were receiving federal funding for. And it was misappropriation of that federal funding as well by the governor, Jane Hull, at the time. So all of this is stuff, if you don't think that put me on a bad list for people now like Andy Biggs, who refuses to even call me back, calls me up and says, you're on the townhouse thing here, subject to being called so you can voice your opinion. And here's for Congressman Andy Biggs. My question is simple. If now we've exposed through the wrongful felony conviction of Donald J. Trump that there is a Department of Justice watch list, what are you going to do about the people that's on it? Then what are you going to do about the people who was on that watch list who were wrongfully convicted of a felony they didn't commit? Those are viable questions to ask. I mean, you pass this stuff saying you're going to reinforce the Fourth Amendment, all this stuff, and stop this watch list and everything. Why don't you talk to the people that were actually lived through that nightmare? So, regardless of that, I don't expect an answer because why would he? Why should he? I mean, he lives in one of the most corrupt states in the Union, and yet he can't see it. He sits there in Maricopa County, which, if he makes a deal like some of our prominent past politicians, Barry Goldwater for one, and take campaign finance money from these factions that want to keep that border wide open, then of course he'll be elected. If not, he won't be elected. Just like Kari Lake was unfortunately not elected, though she was far more better the candidate for what was the need of Arizona residents. But again, the abortion thing they think was one of the reasons. It might have been, but I doubt it. The main issue was that the people who wanted her opponent in there, because he will have for the rest of his life a tied to the hip relationship with drug lords, just like his father. That's the way that works. So, this is all politics, and that's why Arizona, Maricopa County, all of a sudden, every time there's a major important election, they have a problem. I've seen this over and over, reported it numerous times, got retaliated against because that's what I do. I don't believe that just because you're not wearing a uniform, whether it be military or law enforcement, that you don't have a duty as an American to defend and preserve the United States Constitution against people who want to undermine it. So, because of the old frog in the boiling water situation, we've allowed this to where now Americans have to prove their innocence. Those who can't afford it have to languish in dungeons like Maricopa County that violates the actual concept of Geneva Convention treatment of prisoners and Judeo-Christian values that this nation was founded on, and I used to live by. So, regardless of all of this, it is sad to see that an American has to prove their innocence, sit in jail because their corpus delicti powers under the Constitution only belong to the rich like Alec Baldwin, to where you can force the government to produce the evidence that a crime was committed and you participated in it somehow at the beginning, and can also afford bail, no matter how high they set it. But people like me can't, so you just have to sit there and rot until your chance is in. And even after I'm acquitted, I still keep people saying who are alleged to be good Americans that they don't even believe in their own judicial process when I was acquitted by a judge. But the fact that these two bad cops, Anderson and Summersher, were removed by a chief of police because I wrote a 6-page letter that they lied under oath to get the original search warrant, and what all they did to destroy the evidence to show that they planted these plastic pipe bombs, as well as the other corruption of letting people walk all over that crime scene before they allegedly found the plastic pipe bombs, exposing the detention here in front of Susan R. Bolton. But she also ignored that and ignored her duties to throw this case out because it violated the Constitution of the United States, because she wanted to pay back her buddy and the guy that appointed her, most corrupt president in the history of this country, Bill Clinton. Least evil. So you follow all of this, and it sounds like rambling, but it really is. It's a stab in the dark, blind reach out plea for Americans to please don't let them continue to do this. You're supposed to be innocent until the government can prove it absolutely that you committed a crime. And even if the crime was committed, but it's not that way anymore. So the federal courts now say that at any time, anywhere, an American can be detained for as long as the government wants, and there's no accountability. That's exactly what this civil suit I filed is about. And as soon as I get the final hammer thrown down by the current federal district judges in there, the one that took over for Susan Bolton, and it appears it doesn't make any difference whether it's Democrat or Republican. This one now being Susan Bronovich, they're going to go ahead and rule what the Washington slug politician corruption tells them to do, which is to restrict our right under the First Amendment to petition our government for redress. And then this is all ruined whenever they appoint these district judges for life with a very large salary. So that's the sad part to watch and know the difference. That's my problem. I know the difference. I know what it should be, what it used to be, and how well it worked back then. But because of campaigns, and these are political campaigns, war on drugs, war on terrorism, war on crime, all of these were promising you that you would have security if you forfeited your personal rights. Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, 14th Amendment, 8th Amendment, all of these things. If you want to give these up, folks, and First Amendment, by the way, right to petition your government, the government was going to give you absolute security. So do we have security? And that's why I even wearing this old thing I found on the street, by the way, hat, because this man has made promises, and he seems to try and keep these promises. He's going to attack the source of people who are inundating this country with drugs and human trafficking and sex slave trade and snuff films and crap like that, because they are attacking the sovereignty of this country, and that actually is the duty of Congress. But as the executive branch, he's going to use whatever means it takes to attack these people to stop it. Thank you, President Donald Trump, for doing what should have been done many years ago. Instead of making as many as possible Americans convicted felons so they can't carry or bear arms under the Second Amendment, and of course the largest prison population, which costs also the taxpayers a hell of a lot of money. Anybody following that other than me? Regardless of this, what you're seeing is now a judicial system that shadows and looks a great deal like the systems that China and Russia and all other authoritarian, communistic forms of government follow. Any outspoken citizen at any time can be thrown in jail without bail, and then they have to prove their innocence or buy their way out of jail. That's the way their system works. Absolutely. We say it all the time. Do we really want America to go down that road? Because that's what you're looking at. You just don't realize it. Going through the motions, and then have people who are so unprofessional, like Vince Bardino. So, well, just because he was acquitted doesn't mean he didn't do it. Vince Bardino was one of their better ones, folks, but he never had the evidence in order to prove it. There wasn't any physical or any crime scene. Nobody, no crime scene. And he didn't have even sufficient substantial evidence to convince Bill Montgomery back in 2017 or convince in 2023 Sam Myers that a crime had committed or I participated in it. He didn't even have that. Yet they were allowed to punish me, which was their objective, and why he apologized to Sarah before the trial even began to not expect a favorable outcome. That's tyranny, folks. There's just no other way to say it. Good luck to you. I hope I don't have to make another one of these for YouTube. Doubt I'll ever get a fair format in order to present my side, which I've tried to answer you. If you want to look at my YouTube videos, as Sarah said, I had a channel, which I didn't even know what the hell that meant, so still don't. You'll see that I tried to respond. If you watch especially the videos of Sarah and I in the Peacock interview, and then Sarah and I in a phone conversation the night before, you will get a better gist of exactly what happened. And I love my daughter no matter what. But you don't know the reason she's doing this. I do. And yet she told you exactly why she was doing this. It's revenge, just like the DOJ, just like all the state of Arizona and all these other people. Sarah said in that alleged confession, Starbucks audio tape, which is the reason he didn't produce the whole tape for the trial, folks, because in that tape, when I asked Sarah why she wanted me to die in prison, poorly stated as I said, ask her that question. She said, because you took my mother. Folks, her mother was 34 years old, and it was quite a tragedy, but she had a very, very aggressive cancer that killed her in a little over a year. Now, we couldn't afford to go out of country to France to some of these people who had cures for this that could have prolonged her life. So Sarah would have known that she had a mother. But we didn't have the money because that's what's available, though I did take a job, which I did not want to take a job, to get close to UC Davis in 1992 so Barbara could get an experimental treatment for cancer. The union immediately interfered and I was made to transfer from Sacramento down by UC Davis up to Redding, 165 miles away, which meant I had to get Barbara down to Sacramento for that treatment. And then, of course, they terminated me 3 weeks before she died after I got a high performance review and the job was almost finished on a national security job. And did it again in 95. And the government did nothing. Department of Justice, because I'm on a watch list, folks, wouldn't even investigate violations of the Hatch Act. So good luck to you. Good luck to America. All I know is we continue on the current path. All empires that go to this kind of behavior that we're going down now, political parties that can do what they did to Donald J. Trump, a candidate, my God, that's Chicago mob technique. If you ever read the police reports back in those days when Al Capone ran it and Nancy Pelosi's relatives ran Chicago, you would see that's exactly what it was. Defame, destroy financially. If that doesn't work, strong arm tactics. If that fails, then kill them. And that's the way they used to handle that. They're all exposed. But your government, I don't even think they release those records anymore like we did. We'll see if President Donald J. Trump's executive order to release the JFK, which I believe to this day it's all going to be blackened out. But for those of us who really read the Warren Report, had concerns about the outspokenness during the Mitchell Committee hearings in the mid-50s, which John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy were on, against the AFL-CIO, organized crime control, over all of the international union's money. If you really look at the records, I mean, those things exposed Jimmy Hoffa as a FBI informant, which meant he was with the DOJ. That's the reason they killed him, folks. But the other thing is the Kennedys, whether it was because they're Irish mob against the Italian mob, were against them controlling this money, which they have abused for years and years, that I foolishly and stupidly decided and got the attention, at least through Congressman Bob Stump, for them to look at that, which changed the vesting laws and disrupted a organized crime scam to steal and misappropriate this funding. So regardless, this is the way it works. Do I regret being involved in all that? Nah. I'm one of those person with an Irish heritage on my mother's side that makes me born stupid. That's just the way the Irish are. They're fixated and obsessed with fairness. They just can't seem to get past that. And they are not very favorable people in Europe, never have been. So regardless, I'm just like all the other nationalities and races and what have you that came from all over the world to make this nation, the greatest nation in the world, who basically, believe it or not, is the light of the world, because we represent the world, and has the largest arsenal of hydrogen bombs to keep the rest of the world from annihilating all of us. And don't let anybody kid you. This nation's world powers have enough weapons of that size to kill every man, woman, and child on this planet, destroy its entire environment for 1 million years, probably. Anyway, good luck to you. I love this country, and I wish somehow this could be turned around, but of all my hopes and wants is to find out the fate of my daughter, Melissa Marie Turney. And I am the only one on record who ever searched for Alyssa. No one else has. Thank you.